The good news for the Memphis Grizzlies was that Ja Morant, after missing 2 games, was back in the starting lineup against Oklahoma City. And the bad news, the Grizzlies not only lost to Oklahoma City, but Ja Morant might not be all the way back. Let's talk about it. Coming up here on Locked On Grizzlies.
You are Locked On Grizzlies, your daily Memphis Grizzlies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to Locked On Grizzlies. On today, I'm Damichael Cole, beat writer for the Commercial Appeal right here in Memphis, Tennessee. Thanking you for tuning in this early morning with me on Locked On Grizzlies. Again, a later recording today because of the late game on last night, 8:30 p.m. start last night. So, we got to get some shut-eye, as my mom likes to say. We got to get some sleep. So, the Grizzlies lost yesterday at Oklahoma City, 120-103. A lot to break down from that game, offensively, defensively, individually with certain players and whatnot. No Jaren Jackson Jr. in the lineup. So we got a lot to talk about in today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies. But before we get to that, remember that your favorite podcast now has a newsletter introducing the Locked On Grizzlies daily newsletter, the one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right into your inbox. Sign up for free now at lockedondaily.com. That's lockedondaily.com, and start your day with the all-new free Locked On Grizzlies newsletter. Make sure you go take care of that now. And remember that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Sounds simple and easy. So fun time to be a Locked On Grizzlies listener. Shout out to our everydayers out there. But not really a fun time for the Memphis Grizzlies right now. 4 consecutive losses for the Grizzlies. As we mentioned before this stretch, Memphis hadn't lost more than 2 games in a row. And then they had their first 3-game losing streak. Now, after a game against Oklahoma City Thunder, they have their first 4-game losing streak of the season. There was a lot that went wrong in this Grizzlies game. We can start off with the good. And this isn't something that the team just said. This was something that I actually noticed. The good was the effort was better. And what I mean by that is if you go to the Hawks game, right, where the Grizzlies had the 40-point, second quarter, 42 points, I think exactly it was. 42 points in the second quarter against the Hawks. And then there have been those recent games where Taylor Jenkins said, we just been spilling, defensively. Like they just been letting teams get whatever they want. He felt like there was some resistance in this game. And if you watch it, I felt like at times Oklahoma City's talent took over, which we'll get to in a little bit. But for the most part, they competed. There was no Jaren on the back end, but the Grizzlies defense was a little bit more, I guess, attentive in this one. And Taylor Jenkins put it as they took some steps forward. It was positive progress for the Grizzlies. I don't know if I call a 17-point loss positive progress, but I get what he was alluding to. The defense needed to be better, and the defense, at least from the intensity, the urgency, some of the buzzwords that we've been hearing over the past few days, they brought more effort, on that end. Now, for a team that prides itself on being one of the best defenses in the league, you want to take away the 16-2 run that was late in the game and whatnot. You want to take away, those stretches where OKC kind of pulled away from you. But again, really talented team over there, led by the likely MVP. So that was probably a big part of that. Now let's switch over to the other side because there were some problems. And the shooting struggles. The shooting struggles continued for the Grizzlies. As we talk about this 4-game losing streak, bad shooting has been a big part of it. And this is typically, if you've been following the Grizzlies for the last 3, 4, 5 years, this is typically when we would say, look, this is why the Grizzlies may struggle in the playoffs, right? I've said for a while now, I'm a back of the baseball card type of guy. I like the big sample size. And the big sample size for the Grizzlies this season at least says that they've been one of the better 3-point shooting teams in the league, in the top third of the league. With that being said, the last 4 games have not shown that. And it's a struggle right now. It's a struggle, especially in the starting lineup. If you go down the entire starting lineup, Jalen Wells 0 of 5 from the field, 0 of 5 from 3-point range in this game. Vince Williams 1 of 7 from 3-point range. Zach Edey didn't attempt a 3-pointer. Desmond Bane was 1 of 3. Ja Morant was 2 of 9. You got 4 made 3-pointers from the starting lineup. 4. Not only did you get 4 made 3-pointers from the starting lineup, you got 20 missed 3-pointers. I mean, 22 missed 3-pointers, excuse me. It wasn't the most, efficient day, for the Grizzlies. I got the math wrong on that. I think they did have 4 made 3-pointers, but at the end of the day, they missed 20. I was right on that. So 20 missed 3-pointers for the Grizzlies in the starting lineup. But then when you go to the bench, Luke Kennard, one of the best 3-point shooters in the NBA, right? 0 of 2 on 3-point range. And it's been a struggle for him as of late. This isn't something that's particularly new. Scottie Pippen Jr. knocked down a couple off the bench. G.D. Jackson knocked down a couple off the bench. Marvin Bagley knocked down 1. Overall, the team shot 9 of 34 from 3-point range. It's already hard enough to beat Oklahoma City. We talk about the way that Oklahoma City does a great job at preventing teams from scoring in the paint. The Grizzlies had 46 paint points. 50 is the number that they usually aim for. So kind of held them below where they want to be. So 9 of 34 3-point shooting from the Grizzlies. And then you go over to the other side, Oklahoma City was 15 of 36. It's 41.7%. Essentially, Oklahoma City shot better from the 3-point line than the Grizzlies shot from the field. The Grizzlies were 40.7% from the field. Oklahoma City was 41.7% from the 3-point line. And they shot better than 50% from the field overall. So that was a big part of it. At the end of the day, it's a make or miss game. And it's not as simple as that because, the defense is a big part of it. And the Oklahoma City defense, which Taylor Jenkins pretty much called the best defense they played this year. He called it the most connected defense. It was better. And, I mean, this was without Alex Caruso. This was without Chet Holmgren because we could say the Grizzlies didn't have Jaren Jackson Jr., didn't have Santi Aldama. Oklahoma City just got the job done. That's at the end of the day what it was. And a big part of Oklahoma City getting the job done was Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And quite frankly, it was a masterclass from him. He was phenomenal. Look, you can talk about the free throws all you want. There were definitely, the foul call against Desmond Bane, I think it may have been Jalen Wells, where Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was at the mid-range, and he was pretty much, had nowhere to go, and he, throws his shoulder into, it was Desmond Bane for sure, I remember that. He throws his shoulder into Bane, and then launches the shot from the free throw line, and they even reviewed it. They go to review the play, and Ja Morant, who's on the floor, I think this is probably second, third quarter, where his frustration is clearly kicking in. And he said something to the effect of, I know if they don't change this call, I don't know what's going on. And they reviewed the call. It was not overturned. It was deemed a foul on Desmond Bane. So, look, it's tough to guard him because of that. He's slippery, as Jalen Wells described it, and the officiating doesn't really help you out too much. But even if you take away his 10 free throws, you're talking about a guy that shot 14 of 25 from the field, 3 of 5 from 3-point range, 41 points, 8 assists. It was just a tough night. And look, you got Jalen Wells, Vince Williams. Vince Williams got the assignment initially. Jalen Wells had opportunities to guard him as well. He's just a tough cover. It's just a tough cover. Again, 14-25 from the field. I'm not really gonna harp too much on the free throws because he made a bunch of shots. You take away the free throws, he still was the leading scorer in the game with 31 points. But that was a big reason for OKC's success. It was Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in the masterclass that he put on, in addition to the Grizzlies offense struggling to shoot the basketball. Again, when you play a team that is so good at defending the paint, which OKC is, they're the best at it. And we saw so many times. In this game, I think Zach Edey had more offensive rebounds himself than OKC had as a team. OKC only had 3 offensive rebounds as a team, and I'm pretty sure Zach Edey finished the game with 5 or 6 offensive rebounds total. Like, with all that being said, yeah, he had four, but he still had more than OKC as a team. Zach, he had four offensive rebounds in this game by his lonesome, and they really struggled to convert those into points because the OKC defense just swarms you, and it's like they're like bees on honey when it comes to the paint. So, hey, four consecutive losses for the Grizzlies. We call it gut check time, all that. I think the urgency was better, so we'll see, what that means as they go into this next game on Friday against the Dallas Mavericks. But we got to talk about some other things here coming up here, and that's Ja Morant. Ja Morant said some interesting things about his health after the game. We're going to talk about that next here coming up on Locked on Grizzlies. But before we get to that, today's episode of Locked on Grizzlies is brought to you by our friends over at BetterHelp. Who's in your support system? Because we all need somebody to lean on, whether it's friends, family, mentors, professionals. Even the strongest leaders and athletes know that asking for help makes them better. And therapy is one of the best ways to help you build a strong support system. And it's not just for the tough times. It doesn't have to be just when you're going through things or financially or physically or emotionally. And it helps you with setting boundaries, which is important, developing coping skills, and becoming the best version of yourself. Look, a lot of people don't like to ask for help. I get it. I've been one of those people before, but you have to learn how to ask for help because I've seen firsthand how valuable it is to have a support system that keeps you grounded and motivated. Build your support system with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/locked on NBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/locked on NBA, and you'll get 10% off of your first month with BetterHelp. Go take advantage of this now at BetterHelp.com. Ja Morant may not be fully healthy, and that could be a really big problem for the Grizzlies. Ja Morant may not be fully healthy, and that could be a big, big problem for the Memphis Grizzlies. After the game, Ja had a lot to say. Not a lot of words, but it's the power of the words, right? It's a frustrating game for Ja Morant. It's a frustrating game for the Grizzlies, right? 8 of 22 shooting from the field for Ja, 2 of 9 on 3-pointers. Now I think he's 6 of 41 from 3-point range since the All-Star break. I think that's around 14%. So it's not good. It's not good. And look, Taylor Jenkins said that the shoulder injury was a lingering issue, right? I watched Ja with my own two eyes in this game, and I saw a few times he was grimacing. There was one time he leaned over. There were a couple times he kind of rolled his right shoulder. I think it was kind of bothering him. And, as a reporter, you notice those things. You got to ask him about it after the game, right? That's what you guys want to know. That's what I want to know. That's what we want to know. We want to know, how does Ja Morant feel? Because one, it impacts how he plays. Two, it impacts the results on this team. Three, it's going to be a big determining factor in how far the Grizzlies go. And I asked Ja, I said, essentially, is the shoulder injury something that's going to resolve itself before the end of the season? And he said 3 words to me, nothing more, nothing less. He said, I don't know. Feel like if it wasn't, if it was something you knew just was going to be brushed over, nah, man, it's no big deal. But Ja Morant saying, I don't know, is to me a little bit concerned. I don't want to read too much into it because at the end of the day, he was frustrated from the game. Probably didn't want to talk much. I get it. But I watched Ja in this game, and it was clear at times that I know some people were talking about the fact that he took 9 3-pointers. And you got to remember the fact that he has a hurt shoulder. Look, if you've had an injured shoulder in any way, shape, or form, you know that contact is one of the things you probably don't want too much of. And I say that to say, we saw a few times he was driving to the basket, whatever the case may be, but it wasn't at the volume that we're used to seeing. And I think that the shoulder injury was part of that. But Ja was pretty blunt after this one, and he was asked, by a reporter, what was it like, being back on the floor, after missing the last couple games, and Ja said it was terrible. And here are his exact words. He said, "I should have been out, but I was out there. Regardless of out in, there's going to be something said." That I do agree with. I do agree with whether he plays, whether he doesn't play, there's going to be something said. Is it fair? No, I don't think it's fair because if he doesn't play, it's Ja Morant isn't, trying to play through the contusion. He doesn't care enough. If he does play, now you're gonna have people saying, just sit out and get healthy. What are you doing? Just sit out and get healthy. But with that being said, it may not be fair, but does it come with a player of Ja Morant's status? Does it come with the star status that Ja Morant has grown into because of his success as an NBA player? Yeah, LeBron has to deal with it, and several other superstars across the league, have to deal with it. But with all that being said, here's where I stand on it. I know my co-host Joe Molinax. Shout out to Joe Molinax. He reached out to me. He said he doesn't think that Ja Morant should have played, and I know that others feel that way too. So let me know how you guys feel in the comments. Do you think Josh should play? Do you think Josh should not have played? Let us know in the Locked On Grizzlies comment section on YouTube as well. But here's my opinion. I'm okay with him playing. Quite frankly, I think he should have played. And this is the opinion that I had on yesterday's show where I said it's a sprint the rest of the way. The Grizzlies are what, 38 and 24 right now, right? 38 and 24. So you're talking about 62 games played. You're talking about 20 games left in the rest of the season. If you're the Grizzlies, you should want that 2 seed. If your star players can play, and here's a big part of this, because this is where I don't want any confusion to be. If your star players can play and there is no additional risk in structural damage, it's about pain tolerance. And Ja clearly has some type of pain tolerance when he's out there. Was he wasn't great, but there is a pain tolerance out there. And again, OKC defense is just going to make things look tougher. At the end of the day. So another key comment that I got was Desmond Bain. Desmond Bain said, "I think our medical staff does a good job of consolidating with you and kind of letting you know whether or not you're in harm's way or if you're going to be playing through some pain or some soreness. I think they do a pretty good job of protecting us." So that kind of goes to my last point. There's no additional structural damage here. You got 20 games the rest of the season. I know some people are going to say, "Oh, sit Ja and let him get fully healthy." Ja doesn't even know if he's going to be fully healthy, for one. Two, at this point, a lot of guys are playing through teams. We've seen Jaren Jackson Jr. last season play through some stuff. We saw Desmond Bain a couple seasons ago with the toe injury. Essentially you have to change the type of shoe he was wearing to finish out the season, at least somewhat comfortably. We've seen Ja play through some things, right? We've seen Ja essentially dribble with one hand because another hand, was injured, for the better part of a game. So, look, I'm fine with him playing in this game. I think it was the right thing to do. Again, as long as the medical staff said there's no additional structural damage that you have to deal with. It's a contusion. It's gonna hurt when you fall on the ground and you land on your shoulder. You're gonna feel it when team sets a screen on you. When you set a screen on the opposing team, you're going to feel that injury. But you're not going to re-injure it. It's not going to be a re-aggravation of anything of that nature. It's just going to be annoying. And to me, if that's the case and Ja's able to play. So shout out to Ja for playing. And I know he feels like he's in the middle of nowhere with this. Oh, if I play, I can't be my best. People are going to pile on me for having a mediocre night. If I don't play, people are going to say, "Oh, Dez is playing. Oh, Jaren is playing. Why isn't Ja playing? And he's the other star player and all that, and he's dealing with soreness." So it's a tough spot to be in. I completely agree with that. But at the same time, over the course of the league, we've seen guys play through a lot of pain. And there's this term or phrase, however you want to say. People say there's a difference between being hurt and being injured. And in the case of Ja, it feels like he's hurt right now, and it's a pain tolerance thing. It's pretty much what this shoulder injury is. If he was injured, then there'd probably be risk of aggravating this thing, turning it to something that was further, and it really limiting his basketball ability. If you're injured, don't play. All signs point to this being a contusion. So Josh said he should have sat out. He said something's going to be said regardless, which is true. I think he did the right thing by playing. Shout out to Ja, toughing it out, showing that the games matter to him. To the people that say, it doesn't really matter to him as much, just played with a banged up shoulder. So probably did that for you. So look, Ja Morant played. I think he should play Friday because the team needs a win. I think he should play Sunday after that because they're going to need a win after that. I think he should play Monday when the Grizzlies get back home against the Suns because they're going to need a win after that. If you're picking up what I'm putting down, they need Ja Morant. Even when he isn't at his best, he's still going to cause the attention of a player of his caliber. He's still going to get the attention from the opponent. So look, I don't know if he'll be healthy at some point in this season, which is a big question mark for the Grizzlies because that's a big determining factor in how far this team could go. But as long as it's a pain tolerance thing, you want Ja out there on the floor. That's my opinion. Let me know what you guys think as well on the idea of Ja Morant playing or sitting out. But whether Ja Morant plays or sits out, the supporting cast is going to be big for the Grizzlies going forward. We're going to talk about them next coming up here on Locked On Grizzlies. But before we get to that, remember that today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. Look, when the game tips off, NBA action is just getting started, and there is no better place to get in on that action than FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Because with FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game. So even if you miss the opening tip, you're getting off work, or it's a late game like that 8:30 p.m. start, you probably was still taking your nap or something, and you missed the beginning of the game, or you want to bet on the fourth quarter comeback. Like you might have been one of those people when the Grizzlies started that fourth quarter against the Thunder on that 7-0 run. You said, wait a minute, here we come. You can stay in on the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay. There are a lot of ways to take advantage of these opportunities over at FanDuel. But right now, here's one of the best opportunities. It's for new customers, though. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if, there's a big if in here, if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the National Basketball Association. The Grizzlies supporting cast is going to have to be a lot better. And they've had stretches where they've been really good. They've had stretches where they showcased that. But in this game against the Thunder, there was kind of a playbook, I think, that was put out there for the Grizzlies without Jaren Jackson Jr. being in the lineup. And I call it a playbook because Jaren, before this game, played 59 straight. 59 straight games. I think there's something to be said about the fact that if Ja isn't shooting great and Desmond Bane is the other guy who's going to have a high usage, there's a way that teams are going to go after him. And Oklahoma City might have given teams that blueprint. So in this game, we talked about Ja Morant's struggles. Des struggled too. Desmond Bane, 5-14 from the field. 1 of 3 from the three-point line. Here's the big one. 1 assist. As we talk about it, like, if Dez isn't scoring, you can bet he's going to have some assists. 15 points, 1 assist. Ja Morant, 24 points, 6 assists. That duo, 13 made shots, 36 attempts. 13 made shots, 36 attempts. How did it happen? Was it just simple as them making and missing shots? That was part of it. Was it Oklahoma City's defense making it tough on them? Oh, yeah, definitely. But how did OKC's defense make it tough? Oklahoma City in this game did something I really hadn't seen a lot of. At this point, Taylor Jenkins pointed it out. My eyes pointed it out. They double teamed Desmond Bain more than Ja Morant. But they took away Ja Morant's paint scoring. So let me rephrase that. They went into this game saying, we're going to completely eliminate Desmond Bain by throwing doubles at him and just making it uncomfortable for him. For Ja Morant, if he makes some shots, we'll have to adjust. But we're gonna bank on him struggling, shooting the basketball, and we're going to eliminate his ability to score in the paint. Every time Ja drove the basketball to the paint against OKC, he saw a crowd. I mean, he's gifted. So there were just times that he was able to score over them. He got to the free throw line for 6 free throws. He knocked down a couple mid-range jumpers. So there were some times where he was able to score in spite of, OKC's defense in the paint. But that's the game plan. I don't see how any other team doesn't follow that. You completely swarm Desmond Bain and take him away. Because what we've seen in the past is teams say, we got to take away Ja. And Ja's the one getting double teamed, and Dez is getting the easier looks. And when that happens, Dez can destroy you. And this is part of why Dez had 1 assist, because he wasn't able to penetrate as much, kick it out to guys, and take advantage of opportunities right there. It wasn't as comfortable of a game, for him, because OKC made him a big priority, and they put some of the better defenders on him. We saw all league type defenders. We saw Luke Dort guarding him. We saw Jalen Williams guarding him. It was a clear priority to not let Desmond Bain go off. But you know what? They weren't going to let Ja go off too. If Ja would have went off, it would have been because he made 5 or 6 3-pointers, knocked down some middies. It wasn't going to be because he had 20 paint points. That was OKC's game plan. And it's smart because it challenges the Grizzlies supporting cast, which is why I said the supporting cast has to be better. And you say, well, what can they do? Of course, everybody's going to say they got to make shots. Like, they missed a lot of shots in this one, right? You need Luke Kennard to knock down some threes. You need, some of the other guys, Jalen Wells. You're going to need him to knock down some threes. Vince Williams. You're going to need those guys to knock down some shots. But you also need them to be playmakers. And this is where missing not only Jaren Jackson Jr., but missing Santi Aldama really came into play. Vince Williams, who I think is a very underrated playmaker, the Grizzlies play him on the ball. He filled in for Jaren, filled in for Santi. He had 2 assists. Jalen Wells, 1 assist. Zach Edey, no assists. So the starting lineup had 10 assists total. Ja Morant had 6 of them. Desmond Bain only had 1. Okay, that's an anomaly. So what about the bench? The bench had 11 assists. 4 for Luke Kennard, 3 for Scottie Pippen Jr., 2 for Gigi, 2 for Brandon Clark. It's not enough. You need those guys to be better playmakers. Santi's capable of that. Santi's a guy you could get the ball in an uncomfortable situation, and he can make something happen. So I think this is where the addition of Santi Aldama back into the lineup is going to come into play. It's also going to help out because Vince Williams is going to have better playmaking games than he had in this one. And those are kind of the guys you're going to need to lean on as big parts of the supporting cast going forward in this stretch without Jaren Jackson Jr. because you don't have the 3 guys that you could run the offense through. We talked about it, maybe about a week ago, how the Grizzlies have a package for Jaren Jackson Jr. They have a package for Ja Morant. They have a package for Desmond Bain. And that's kind of how the offense is constructed. But Jaren's out. And teams are saying, we got to swarm Dez and we got to eliminate Ja's paint scoring ability. Smart. The ability to adjust is there because there are going to be shots for the other guys. You double teaming Desmond Bain and you're taking away Ja in the paint. Santi's going to get some looks. Vince is going to get some looks. Vince had 7. One of 7 from three-point range. Jalen Wills was 0 of 5. So those two, they were 1 of 12 combined. 1 of 12 on three-pointers combined. Is that going to happen again? Probably not. They're both too good of shooters. But the point is, Sporting Cats, a lot's going to be on their shoulders as we go forward in this Grizzlies season, and they kind of continue into this playoff push. Look, remember that your favorite podcast now has a newsletter. Introducing the Locked On Grizzlies Daily Newsletter, the one-stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right into your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com, and start your day with the all-new, free Locked On Grizzlies Daily Newsletter. Thank you guys for tuning in to Locked On Grizzlies with me on today. On the next episode of Locked On Grizzlies, me and Joe Monax will be back together to talk all things Grizzlies. We got a lot to talk about as we break down what's going on with the Memphis Grizzlies, including previewing the next game against the Dallas Mavericks. But until that time comes, remember that Locked On Grizzlies is free and available wherever you get podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, anywhere you get podcasts. Till next time, I'm Damichael Cole, and we'll see you on Locked On Grizzlies.